Dr. Min-ji Park stepped off the transport shuttle and looked up at the Kelvar research station. The massive structure floated in space like a silver flower, its petals made of gleaming metal and transparent observation domes. She had traveled 3 months to reach this place, crossing half the galaxy to participate in the interspecies sensory research program. Min-ji adjusted her research pack and walked toward the entrance, trying to ignore the nervous flutter in her stomach. Inside the station, the air smelled strange. Not bad, just different. Every species brought their own scent, their own atmosphere preferences. The station's environmental systems worked hard to keep everyone comfortable. Min-ji found her way to Laboratory 7, where her new teammates waited. "Ah, the human arrives," a deep voice rumbled. A massive reptilian creature turned to face her. His scales were dark green and seemed to shimmer with their own inner heat. "I am Velcor, from the Thermax Dominion. I lead this research team." Min-ji bowed politely. "Dr. Min-ji Park, thank you for accepting me into the program." "This is Thaes," Velcor gestured to an insectoid being with crystalline wings. "And Mirn." The third team member looked like a giant cat, her fur a soft gray color with darker stripes. Thaes's compound eyes reflected rainbow colors as she studied Min-ji. "A human. How interesting. We have read about your species. You see only visible light, yes? Such a limited range." "That's correct," Min-ji said carefully. "Humans see wavelengths from about 380 to 740 nanometers." Marin's tail swished. "So you cannot see in darkness? How did your ancestors hunt?" "We used tools, torches, fires, and later technology," Min-ji explained. Velcor made a sound that might have been a laugh. "Tools to compensate for weak senses. How very human." He moved to a control panel. "Let us begin the sensory evaluations. We must establish baseline capabilities for all team members." The laboratory transformed. Lights dimmed, and testing stations rose from the floor. Each station held different types of equipment designed to measure sensory abilities. Min-ji watched as her new teammates demonstrated their capabilities. Velcor went first. He stood before a sealed metal box. Inside, as monitors showed, a small heat source moved randomly. Without hesitation, Velcor pointed to its exact location every single time. "Infrared vision," he explained with obvious pride. "I can track any living being by its heat signature through walls, in complete darkness, across great distances. My species evolved on a world with frequent volcanic activity and ash clouds. We needed to hunt when sunlight was blocked for months." The monitors showed what Velcor saw. The world appeared in shades of red, orange, and yellow. Every object had a temperature signature. Warm things glowed bright. Cool things appeared dark. It was beautiful in its own way, Min-ji thought. "Impressive," she said honestly. Thaes floated to the next station. The test involved navigating through a maze marked with patterns invisible to most species. She moved through it perfectly, never hesitating. "Ultraviolet vision," she buzzed. "Many flowers evolved UV patterns to guide pollinators. My ancestors were those pollinators. We see the secret messages in nature that others miss. The galaxy uses UV markers for navigation beacons because they do not interfere with normal light." Mitteran's test involved hunting in near-total darkness. The lights dropped to levels that seemed pitch black to Min-ji, but Mern moved with perfect confidence, catching small floating objects that Min-ji could not even see. "Night vision," Mern purred. "My eyes gather every photon of light. What you call darkness, I call dim twilight. My people hunted on a world with thick cloud cover and long nights." Then it was Min-ji's turn. Velcor configured the first test for infrared detection. A heat source was placed behind a barrier. "Simply point to where you sense the warm object," he instructed. Min-ji stared at the barrier. She saw nothing. No heat signature, no glow, just a blank wall. She knew the object was there from the test description. but she could not detect it at all. "I cannot see it," she admitted. "Humans do not have infrared vision." Velkor's head tilted. "Try harder. Focus." "I am focusing. I truly cannot see infrared wavelengths. My eyes are not built for it." Thias's wings buzzed softly. "What about ultraviolet? Perhaps you have that ability?" She activated a panel covered in UV reactive patterns. Minji looked at the panel. She saw a blank gray surface. "No, I see nothing." Mern's ears flattened slightly. "The darkness test?" When the lights dropped to near zero, Minji was completely blind. She stood still, not wanting to bump into equipment. The darkness was total and absolute. She heard her teammates moving easily around her, their enhanced vision making them as comfortable as if it were daylight. When the lights returned, Minji saw the expressions on her teammates' faces. Pity mixed with something like disappointment. Velkor made a note on his datapad. "Humans truly are limited to the visible spectrum only. Remarkable that your species achieved space travel with such handicaps." "We managed," Minji said quietly, feeling heat rise in her cheeks. "Indeed," Thias said, her tone suggesting she found it barely believable. "No infrared, no ultraviolet, no night vision. You must live in constant danger on your home world. How many humans die from unseen predators?" "We do not have many large predators anymore. And we use technology." "Always technology," Velkor interrupted. "Crutches for your biological limitations." He turned away. "Let us proceed to the main project assignment." The laboratory walls lit up with a massive holographic display. It showed a planet covered in diverse environments. "This is Colony World Designation Harmony," Velkor explained. 70 different species live there together. The Galactic Council has commissioned us to design a visual identification system. Every species, every habitat zone, every resource area needs a unique identifier that can be recognized quickly. "We will use heat signatures," Velkor continued. "Infrared markers are clear and distinct." "And UV patterns for navigation," Thias added. "They work across many environments." "Night visible markers for safety," Miss Aron suggested. "Clear in all lighting conditions." Minji raised her hand hesitantly. "What about color-based markers?" "The visible spectrum offers many possibilities." Velkor's laugh rumbled through the room. "Color? That is your suggestion? Using the narrow band that only some species can see?" He shook his massive head. "Humans, always thinking their limited perception is universal." "But colors are distinct," Minji protested. "There are many possible combinations." "We need 10,000 unique identifiers," Thias said flatly. "Your primitive color system cannot provide enough variations. Infrared and UV offer far more range." Minarin's tone was gentler but equally dismissive. "Perhaps stick to documentation, Minji. Let those of us with superior vision handle the actual design work." Minji felt her face burn. She nodded slowly and returned to her workstation. Around her, the 3 aliens began enthusiastically planning their system. Their voices confident and excited. They barely noticed when she pulled up her own workspace and began quietly working on something they had already decided was worthless. She stared at her color calibration charts and wondered if accepting this assignment had been a terrible mistake. But something in her refused to give up. Humans had not reached the stars by accepting that they were inferior. They had done it by finding their own strengths. Minji began to work, even though nobody was watching. 3 weeks passed in the laboratory, and the project was not going well. Minji watched her teammates grow increasingly frustrated with their identification system. What had seemed simple at the beginning was proving nearly impossible. Velkor paced back and forth across the laboratory floor, his tail lashing with irritation. The heat signatures keep overlapping. We can create distinct markers for warm-blooded species, but cold-blooded species and mechanical structures all register in similar ranges. We have only managed 4,000 unique identifiers. Thias's wings buzzed anxiously as she studied her holographic displays. The UV patterns have the same problem. Crystal structures, water, and certain minerals all reflect UV light in similar ways. I have exhausted the possible combinations. Perhaps 5,000 markers at most, and many are too similar for quick recognition. Myrn worked at her station, combining night vision markers with the other systems. Her ears were flat against her head in concentration. Even combining all our approaches, we reach only 8,000 reliable identifiers. We need 10,000. And the Council wants the system finished in 2 weeks. Minji continued her own work quietly at her station in the corner. For 3 weeks, she had been ignored. Her teammates spoke around her, but rarely to her. They saw her as the limited human, unable to contribute anything meaningful. So she worked alone, building what they had dismissed as primitive and useless. Her screen showed thousands of color variations. She had organized them into categories by hue, then subdivided by saturation, then again by brightness. Each combination was distinct to her eyes. She could see the differences clearly, even when the shades seemed very close together. On the morning of the 4th week, Velcor discovered what she was doing. He came to return a tool he had borrowed from her workstation and saw her display. His head tilted as he studied the array of colors covering her screens. "What is this?" he asked, his voice carrying across the laboratory. Minji looked up from her work. "The color-based identification system. I have been developing it as an alternative." Thias and Myrn stopped their work and approached. The 3 aliens stared at Minji's displays with expressions she could not quite read. "You have been working on this for 3 weeks?" Velcor asked. "Even after we explained it was not useful?" "I thought it might help," Minji said quietly. "Even if just as a backup system." Thias leaned closer to the screen. "How many combinations have you created?" "Currently 8,327 unique color markers, but I can make more. Many more." Velcor made that rumbling sound again. The one that might have been a laugh. 8,000 color combinations. That is impressive for such a limited system. But surely you are reaching the maximum now. How many colors can your human eyes actually distinguish? Minji met his gaze. Approximately 10 million distinct colors. The laboratory went silent. The hum of equipment suddenly seemed very loud. "That is impossible," Thias said flatly. "No biological system can differentiate 10 million variations of anything." "Human eyes can," Minji said. She pulled up a reference chart showing the visible light spectrum. "We have 3 types of color receptors called cones. One responds to red wavelengths, one to green, one to blue. The combination of signals from these 3 receptors creates our color perception. The mathematics works out to roughly 10 million distinguishable shades." Velcor's eyes narrowed. "You are saying your primitive visible light vision can detect more variations than my infrared vision?" "I am not calling anything primitive," Minji said carefully. "I am simply stating that human color discrimination is very detailed. It is one of our species' evolutionary advantages." Myrn's tail had gone still. "Prove it. Show us that you can truly distinguish what you claim." Minji nodded and configured a test. She created an array of color squares on a large display panel. To her eyes, each square was a different shade. Some were very close together, but still distinct. "Each of these is a different color. Can you count them?" The 3 aliens studied the display. Velcor's head tilted left, then right. "I see perhaps 20 heat signatures from the display lighting, all nearly identical." Thias's compound eyes refracted light in rainbow patterns. "I detect no UV variance at all. The display appears as one uniform shade to me." Perhaps pale blue? Mr. Arn squinted at the panel. I see what might be different brightness levels in some areas. Perhaps 30 or 40 different shades of gray? It is difficult to say. Minji activated the analysis mode. Numbers appeared under each square showing the precise wavelength combinations. There are 256 distinct colors in this array, each one different from all the others. Velcor stared at the display, then at Minji, then back at the display. You can see all of them? All 256 as separate colors? Yes, and I can identify each one consistently. Would you like me to demonstrate? For the next hour, Minji took test after test. The aliens configured increasingly difficult challenges, arrays of similar shades, colors that differed by only the smallest amounts, mixed patterns that combined dozens of hues. Every single time, Minji identified each color accurately. The laboratory's scanning equipment confirmed that the colors were indeed different, even though the aliens could not perceive the differences themselves. Finally, Velcor sat down heavily at a workstation. He looked tired. This changes everything. How is this possible? Your eyes only function in daylight. You cannot see heat or ultraviolet or anything beyond your narrow band. You are blind in darkness and cannot track prey through barriers. And yet you have this incredible discrimination within your limited range. Minji sat across from him. Every species evolved to match their environment. Humans developed in forests on Earth. Our ancestors needed to find food. Ripe fruit versus unripe fruit. Poisonous plants versus safe ones. Fresh meat versus spoiled meat. All of these things showed their differences through subtle color changes. Humans who could see those differences survived. Those who could not, did not. She pulled up images from Earth. Forests in autumn showing thousands of shades of red, orange, yellow, and brown. A human face showing emotional changes through tiny shifts in skin tone. Minerals and gems in every color imaginable. Our whole world taught us to see color. Every detail mattered. We also read emotions from each other's faces. When someone is scared, their face goes pale. When angry, it gets red. When sick, it turns yellowish or gray. Color told us everything we needed to know about our world. Thias's wings were completely still now. My species sees patterns in ultraviolet. We have perhaps 200,000 distinguishable UV variations. I thought that was sophisticated. But 10 million colors. In my species, we see only a few thousand distinct heat levels, Velcor admitted quietly. It seemed like so many until now. And I see the world in night vision, Mararn added. Perhaps 500,000 shades of brightness, not colors really, just light and dark in many levels. An alert chimed through the laboratory. The main communication screen activated, showing an elderly alien of a species Minji did not recognize. Robes covered most of its body, but she could see its face was ancient and wise. This is Archivist Jin Su of the Council, the figure said. I apologize for interrupting your work, but we have an urgent situation that requires immediate attention. A new species has requested membership in the Galactic Council. They are called the Chromari. The universal translators cannot interpret their communication system. Every attempt at first contact has failed. We are preparing to reject their application as incompatible with galactic civilization. Velcor stood. Archivist, we are in the middle of our research project. I understand. But I am sending you the Chromari communication samples. Perhaps fresh perspectives will help. The archivist's image flickered. We have only days before the council vote. After that, the Chromari will be sent away. They will be alone forever. The screen went dark. A moment later, data files began downloading to the laboratory systems. Minji opened the first file and saw a video of a Chromari. The being looked somewhat like a squid or octopus with smooth skin and many tentacles. But what caught her attention was that its skin was changing. Colors rippled across its body in waves of light. Beautiful colors. Millions of them, shifting and changing in patterns that made her eyes widen. "It is just flashing randomly," Thace said, watching the video. "No pattern I can detect." Velcor shook his head. "I see only the creature's heat signature. The skin changes mean nothing to my vision." But Minji saw something they did not. The colors were not random. There were patterns, sequences, repetitions. It looked almost like language. Like written words, but painted in light on living skin. "I need to study these files," Minji said softly. "I need to study them very carefully." Minji spent 2 days studying the Chromari communication samples. She barely slept. Food became something she ate without tasting, her attention completely focused on the videos playing across her screens. Her teammates worked on their own project nearby, occasionally glancing at her with curiosity. The Chromari were beautiful. Their skin flowed with colors like living paintings. Each individual had slightly different base tones, but all of them shared the same pattern of rapid color changes. What had seemed random at first viewing was becoming clearer to Minji with every hour of study. She started by cataloging individual colors. Red appeared frequently, but not just one red. Dozens of different reds: scarlet, crimson, ruby, cherry, burgundy, maroon. Each shade appeared in specific contexts. Then she noticed blue patterns: azure, navy, cobalt, sapphire, indigo, cyan. Again, each shade had its own purpose. On the second night, exhausted and drinking her 5th cup of coffee, Minji saw it. The pattern revealed itself like a door opening in her mind. Colors were not just signals. They were words. Specific shades meant specific things. The intensity of the color added meaning, like tone of voice. The speed of color changes created grammar, showing past or future or questions or statements. She sat back in her chair, breathing hard. "They are speaking," she whispered to herself. "They are speaking in colors." The next morning, Velcor found her asleep at her workstation, her head resting on her arms. Dozens of screens surrounded her, all showing Chromari videos and complex charts of color variations. He studied the charts with growing interest. They looked like language dictionaries, with colors instead of words. "Minji," he said, gently shaking her shoulder. "Wake up." She jerked awake, disoriented. "What?" "Oh, Velcor. Sorry, I must have fallen asleep." "You have been working for 2 days straight. What have you discovered?" Minji rubbed her eyes and pulled up her main analysis screen. "The Chromari communicate through color, not simple color signals like red means danger. They have a complete language. Every shade is a word. The brightness adds emotional context. The saturation level indicates certainty or uncertainty. The speed of change creates verb tenses." Thais and Murarn approached, drawn by the conversation. Thais studied the charts. "How many words are in their language?" "From these samples, I have identified approximately 3,000 distinct color words so far, but their language appears to have regional dialects and technical vocabularies. The full language might contain 10,000 words or more, maybe much more." Velcor's eyes widened. "And you can see all of these color differences?" "Yes. To me, each shade is as distinct as different words in spoken language would be to you. I can see when they are asking questions because the colors shift faster at the end of sequences. I can see when they are sad because the colors become darker and less saturated. I can see excitement through bright, pure colors." Mr. N's tail swished slowly. "But the universal translator cannot see this?" "The translator is calibrated for most galactic species' visual ranges. It sees perhaps a few hundred broad colors. It is like trying to understand a language when you can only hear every 20th word. The translator detects that communication is happening, but cannot understand what is being said." "Can you translate?" Velcor asked. "Can you understand what they are saying?" Minji hesitated. "I can identify the patterns and color words. I am building a basic vocabulary guide, but I would need to interact with them directly to create a full translation system, to learn their grammar rules, to understand context and idioms. Languages are complex. This is just the beginning. The laboratory door opened. Archivist Jin Su entered in person this time, moving slowly with age. 3 other council members followed, including representatives from the Thermal Collective, the UV League, and the Photonic Assembly. All of them were important leaders in galactic civilization. "We have come to observe," Jinsu said. "We heard that the human researcher may have found something in the Chromari samples. We wanted to see for ourselves before the council votes tomorrow." Minji felt her heart race. Tomorrow. The vote was tomorrow. She stood and bowed respectfully. "Archivist, council members, I believe the Chromari communicate through highly sophisticated color language. Their entire bodies function as speaking organs. To them, showing colors is the same as speaking words for us." One of the council members, a being made of crystalline structures, spoke with a voice like chiming bells. "We have studied the samples for months. We see only random color changes. If this is truly language, why can no species in the galaxy understand it?" "Because most species see far fewer colors than humans," Minji explained. She activated a comparison display. "Velcor's species sees approximately 3,000 heat gradients, impressive for tracking and hunting. Thies's species sees perhaps 200,000 UV variations, excellent for navigation and pattern recognition, but humans see 10 million distinct colors. The Chromari language uses millions of these shades. To most species, it looks random because they literally cannot see the differences between the words." Jinsu moved closer to Minji's displays. "Explain how you reached this conclusion." Minji pulled up her analysis. "I started by cataloging every shade I could identify in the samples. Then I looked for patterns. I noticed certain colors appeared in regular sequences, like sentence structures in spoken language. I found that similar shades appeared in similar contexts, like word families or related concepts. Then I noticed that when one Chromari displayed a sequence, another would respond with a different sequence: question and answer, statement and reply." She played a video showing 2 Chromari interacting. "Watch this section. The first Chromari displays a sequence starting with deep blue, moving through lighter blues, then to green. The second Chromari responds with yellows moving to orange. Then the first shows satisfaction through bright, pure colors. This appears to be a question being asked and answered positively." "You are guessing," the crystalline council member said. "You see patterns because you wish to see them." Minji nodded. "That is possible. But I can test my hypothesis. Let me show you." She pulled up another video, one she had not played for anyone yet. "This is a teaching video for Chromari children. They're young. I believe it is teaching basic vocabulary and concepts." The video showed an adult Chromari with a small juvenile. The adult displayed colors slowly and deliberately. After each sequence, the juvenile attempted to copy the same colors. Sometimes the juvenile succeeded, sometimes it failed, and the adult repeated the sequence patiently. "Watch what happens when the adult displays red and points to an object," Minji narrated. "The object appears to be food. Then the adult displays blue and points to water, then green and points to a plant. Each color is being associated with a specific object. This is vocabulary instruction, teaching children words for things." The laboratory was silent. Every being present stared at the screen as the simple teaching video played. When it ended, Jinsu spoke quietly. "If you are correct, this species is not incompatible with galactic civilization. They are simply speaking a language we could not hear. We would be condemning them to eternal isolation for being different." "We have done this before," Velcor said suddenly. Everyone turned to look at him. The large reptilian looked uncomfortable. My people's history records a species we encountered before joining the Galactic Council. They communicated through vibrations in the ground. We thought they were mindless creatures. We hunted them. By the time we realized our mistake and learned to detect ground vibrations, we had driven them to extinction. We killed an entire intelligent species because we could not understand how they spoke. The weight of that confession hung in the air. Thias's wings buzzed softly. And my people nearly made war on a species that communicated through pheromones. We thought they were attacking us when they were trying to greet us. We were fortunate that diplomats arrived before violence escalated. Jin-Su looked at Min-Ji with eyes that had seen centuries. Can you teach the translator system to recognize the Kromari language? Can you bridge this gap? Min-Ji thought about the complexity of the task, the millions of colors, the subtle variations, the speed of changes, the context and meaning. It would take time, much time. But it was possible. With human eyes to train the system, it was possible. Yes, she said, but I will need help. I will need to work directly with the Kromari, to learn from them, to teach them about our languages while learning theirs. It will not be fast, but it can be done. How long? The Crystalline Council member asked. To create a basic working translator? Perhaps 6 months of intensive work. To create something truly functional? A year, maybe 2. The vote is tomorrow, Jin-Su reminded her gently. Min-Ji straightened her shoulders. Then I will need to present my findings to the council. I will need to show them what I have discovered. I cannot give them a completed translator, but I can give them proof that the Kromari are speaking, that they are intelligent, that they deserve a chance. Velcor stepped forward. She will not go alone. This team will stand with her. We will support her findings. Thias's wings spread wide in agreement. The human is correct. Our superior vision in infrared and ultraviolet means nothing if we miss what is right in front of us. Murren purred softly. We thought our enhanced senses made us better. But Min-Ji saw what we could not. She deserves our respect. Jin-Su smiled, and for a moment looked much younger. Then prepare your presentation, Dr. Min-Ji Park. Tomorrow you will speak before the entire Galactic Council, and you will teach us all what it means to truly see. The Galactic Council chamber was enormous. Thousands of representatives from hundreds of species filled the circular tiers, rising up toward a domed ceiling that showed the stars beyond. Min-Ji stood on the central platform, feeling very small. Her hands wanted to shake, but she forced them to be steady. Velcor, Thias, and Murren stood behind her in support. Their presence helped calm her nerves. Jin-Su sat in the archivist section, watching with encouraging eyes. The council speaker, a being that looked like flowing liquid held together by force fields, addressed the assembly. We gather to vote on the Kromari application for council membership. The recommendation is rejection due to communication incompatibility. However, Dr. Min-Ji Park of Humanity has requested permission to present new evidence. The council recognizes Dr. Park. Min-Ji activated her presentation. The massive holographic displays throughout the chamber lit up with images of the Kromari. A wave of whispers moved through the crowd. Many had never seen the species before. Honored council members, Min-Ji began, her voice amplified throughout the chamber. I stand before you to speak for a species that cannot speak for themselves, not because they lack language, but because we have failed to understand the language they have. She played the first video, a Kromari displaying waves of color across its skin. When I first saw this, I saw chaos, random flashing, but then I looked closer. I looked with human eyes, and I saw something else. The display zoomed in, slowing down the video and breaking it into individual frames. Each frame showed a specific color. Min-Ji had labeled each one. This is not chaos. This is speech. Each color is a word. Each shade has meaning. The brightness shows emotion. The saturation indicates certainty. The speed creates grammar. She pulled up her vocabulary charts. In 3 days, I have identified over 3,000 distinct color words in the Chromari language. These are not simple signals. This is a complex, sophisticated language capable of expressing abstract concepts, emotions, questions, commands, and storytelling. A representative from the Thermal Collective stood. Dr. Park, how can you be certain these are words and not just emotional displays? Many species change color based on mood. An excellent question, Minji acknowledged. She played another video. Watch this interaction between two Chromari. The first displays a sequence. The second responds with a completely different sequence. Then the first shows acknowledgement. This is conversation. One asks, another answers. Now watch this. She played a second video. Different Chromari, different time. But when asked the same question using the same colors, they both give responses using similar color patterns, consistent responses to consistent questions. This is language. She played the teaching video she had shown Jin-Soo. And this is education. An adult teaching a child vocabulary, the same way we all learned our first words, through repetition, pointing, and practice. The chamber was silent except for the video playing. The simple scene of parent and child learning together seemed to affect many council members deeply. A representative from a species Minji did not recognize spoke. Even if this is language, none of our technology can translate it. The universal translator has failed completely. How can we communicate with them? The translator failed because it was not designed to see what the Chromari are saying, Minji explained. It can detect only a few hundred broad colors. The Chromari language uses millions of precise shades. It is like asking someone who is deaf to write down what they hear. They are not lacking intelligence. They simply lack the sensory capability. She paused, then continued. But humans have that capability. Human eyes can distinguish approximately 10 million different colors. We can see what the translator cannot. We can learn the Chromari language, and we can teach it to improved translator systems. Murmurs spread through the chamber. Velcor stepped forward. I speak as team leader of the Sensory Research Project. Dr. Park's claims about human color vision have been thoroughly tested and verified. Humans possess color discrimination far beyond what most species can achieve. What seems impossible to us is routine observation for them. Thais joined him. I initially dismissed human vision as primitive and limited. I was wrong. Within their range, human eyes are the most sophisticated color detection system we have encountered. The council speaker gestured for silence. Dr. Park, you claim you can learn their language. How long would this take? To develop a basic working translator? Approximately 6 months of direct interaction with the Chromari. To create a fully functional system? 1 to 2 years. And if we vote to reject them today? If we send them away? Minji felt her chest tighten. Then we condemn them to eternal isolation. They came to us seeking connection, seeking to join the galactic community. They tried to speak to us, but we could not hear them. If we send them away now, they will believe they are alone in the universe, that no one will ever understand them. She looked up at the thousands of representatives. My species knows what it is like to feel alone. For thousands of years, humans believed we were the only intelligent life in existence. We wondered if anyone else was out there, if anyone would ever understand us. When we finally met other species and joined the galactic community, it was the greatest moment in our history. We were not alone anymore. Her voice grew stronger. The Chromari are not incompatible. They are not impossible to understand. They are simply different. They speak in colors instead of sounds or chemicals or vibrations. Is that really a reason to abandon them? To tell them they will never belong? A new voice spoke from the upper tiers. I am Representative J. Sung of the Empathic Collective. Dr. Park, what you describe sounds like a research project, not a basis for council membership. Why should we accept a species that requires years of study before we can speak with them? Minji had expected this question. Because that is exactly what we did for dozens of current council species. The harmonic ones communicate through sound frequencies most species cannot hear. We developed technology to bridge that gap. The crystalline matrices think at speeds far slower than biological species. We learned patience and created time-shifted communication systems. The hive minds think collectively in ways individuals cannot naturally understand. We adapted. She gestured to the representatives around the chamber. Every species here communicates differently. Every single one required adaptation, understanding, and technology to bridge the gaps. The Chromari are no different. They only seem impossible because humans are one of the few species who can see what they are saying. But that is not a weakness of the Chromari. That is a limitation we need to overcome. Jinsu rose from the archivist section. The human makes an important point. We claim to welcome all intelligent species to the Council, but our definition of compatible communication has been limited to what most species can perceive. We have good technology for sound, for radio waves, for chemical signals, but we have neglected visual communication beyond simple patterns. This is our oversight, not the Chromari's fault. The Council speaker considered. Dr. Park, if given 6 months, what would you need to create this translator? Access to the Chromari, a location where we can interact safely, permission to teach them our languages while learning theirs, technical support for modifying translator systems, and most importantly, time and patience from the Council. And you would do this work? Dedicate yourself to bridging this gap? Minji thought of the Chromari floating alone in space, waiting for an answer, waiting to learn if anyone would ever understand their words. Yes, I would be honored to do this work. The Council speaker turned to address the full chamber. The Council will now debate. Dr. Park has presented evidence that the Chromari possess sophisticated language. She has offered a path to communication. We must decide if we will take that path or turn away. For 3 hours, the Council debated. Representatives spoke for and against. Some argued that the time investment was too great. Others pointed out that many current members had required similar efforts. Some worried about setting precedents. Others celebrated the possibility of finally understanding color-based communication. Minji sat with her team, waiting. Velcor placed a massive hand on her shoulder. Whatever happens, you have done well. You saw what we could not. Finally, the Council speaker called for order. The vote will now commence. All in favor of granting the Chromari provisional membership pending successful communication development within 1 galactic year. Lights began to appear throughout the chamber. Green lights for yes, red lights for no. Minji watched them blink into existence, her heart pounding. Green, red, green, green, red, green. The patterns seemed random, impossible to predict. The counting took several minutes. When it finished, the Council speaker announced the result. The vote is successful. 3,217 in favor, 2,893 against. The Chromari are granted provisional membership. Relief flooded through Minji so strongly she almost collapsed. Velcor caught her arm, steadying her. Around them, representatives were discussing the vote. Some looked pleased, others disappointed. But the decision was made. Jinsu approached the platform. Dr. Park, the Council has authorized the creation of a Chromari communication project. You will lead it. Resources will be provided. The Chromari will be brought to a neutral station where you can work with them safely. You have 1 year to create a working translator system. Minji bowed deeply. Thank you, Archivist. I will not fail them. Or you. I know you will not, Jinsu said with a smile. After all, you have already proven that humans can see what others cannot. Now you will teach the rest of us to see it too." As they left the council chamber, Tyes flew beside Minji. "I owe you an apology. When you arrived, I thought you were limited, handicapped by your narrow sensory range. I was wrong. You are not limited. You are specialized, and your specialization is exactly what the galaxy needed." Mirren purred in agreement. "We all learned something important today. Superior senses do not make a superior species. Understanding and adaptation do." Minji smiled, exhausted but happy. Tomorrow she would begin the hardest work of her life, learning a language made of light, teaching beings who spoke in colors to communicate with beings who spoke in sounds, building a bridge between two completely different ways of expressing thought and feeling. But tonight, she allowed herself to feel proud. The Chromari would not be alone anymore, and neither would humanity. They had found their place in the galaxy by seeing what others could not see. 8 months had passed since the council vote. The communication station orbited a peaceful star system, specially built for the Chromari project. Minji stood in the observation room, watching through the transparent walls as Chromari moved through their habitat pools. She knew them all by name now, or rather, by color name. There was Sunrise over Ocean, the elder who had first agreed to teach Minji their language. There was Dancing Light on Water, the curious young one who asked endless questions. There was Deep Blue Wisdom, the philosopher who helped Minji understand abstract concepts. And there was Warm Red Joy, the child who reminded Minji why this work mattered. The translator system was ready. After 8 months of intensive work, countless hours of learning and teaching, and the combined efforts of human linguistic experts and galactic technical specialists, they had done it. The system could now interpret Chromari color speech and convert it to other galactic languages. It could also translate other languages into colors the Chromari could understand. Today was the demonstration. Representatives from the Galactic Council had arrived to witness the first real-time conversation between the Chromari and other galactic species. Minji felt nervous but confident. She had tested the system hundreds of times. It worked. Velcor entered the observation room. "They are ready for you in the demonstration chamber. The council representatives are assembled." Minji nodded and followed him. Thais and Mirren joined them in the corridor. The team had stayed together throughout the project, helping in whatever ways they could. They had become true friends. The demonstration chamber was smaller than the council chamber, but still impressive. Representatives from 20 species sat in comfortable observation areas. At the center was a large pool of water connected to the Chromari habitat. On one side of the pool stood the new translator device, its sensors capable of detecting millions of color variations. On the other side, display screens would show the translations for the observers. Jin-Su greeted Minji with a warm smile. "The galaxy waits to hear the Chromari speak. Are you ready?" "I am ready. More importantly, they are ready. They have been waiting a long time to be heard." "Then let us begin." Minji approached the pool and activated the translator system. She made a hand gesture that she had taught the Chromari meant hello or greeting. A moment later, Sunrise over Ocean emerged from the water. The elder Chromari's skin immediately began displaying colors, gentle blues flowing into soft greens with touches of warm yellow. The translator hummed softly, processing the color patterns. Then, a synthesized voice spoke in galactic standard language. "Greetings to the gathered species. I am called Sunrise over Ocean by our human friends. I speak for my people with gratitude and joy." Gasps echoed through the chamber. The representatives stared at the Chromari, then at the translator, then back at the Chromari. The colors continued flowing across Sunrise over Ocean's skin, and the translator continued speaking. "For many cycles, we believed we were alone. We traveled the stars and found other species, but none who could understand us. We saw them speak to each other, saw their communities and connections. But when we tried to speak, they saw only random color. They thought us mindless creatures. We despaired. The colors shifted to darker blues and grays. Sadness. The translator captured even the emotional nuance. Then humans came. At first, we thought they would be like the others, but Minji, the human, saw our colors. She saw our words. She did not see chaos. She saw language. For the first time in our history, someone heard us speak. Sunrise over ocean's colors became brighter, more vibrant. Joy and gratitude. We are not primitive. We are not incompatible. We are simply different. We speak in light as you speak in sound. Both are valid. Both are beautiful. We thank the Council for giving us this chance, and we thank humanity for teaching you to see what you could not see before. Representative Jae-sung stood. Sunrise over ocean. May I ask you a question? The chromari displayed curious yellows mixed with attentive greens. The translator spoke. Yes. Please ask. What is your world like? What is your culture? For the next hour, Sunrise over Ocean spoke about chromari civilization. They described their ocean world, where color was the primary sense. They explained their history, their art, which was literally living paintings, their philosophy that emphasized the importance of being truly seen and understood. They described their sciences, their technology developed without visible light sources, since they themselves were their own light. They spoke of their literature, stories painted across bodies in flowing narratives. Other chromari joined the demonstration. Dancing Light on Water spoke about exploration and curiosity. Deep Blue Wisdom discussed philosophical questions about consciousness and perception. Warm Red Joy, the child, simply played, displaying playful color patterns that made many observers smile at the universal nature of childhood joy. The representatives asked questions. The chromari answered. Real conversation flowed for the first time. Minji watched from the side, feeling tears in her eyes. This was what she had worked for, this moment of connection. After the demonstration, the chamber erupted in discussion. Representatives crowded around the pool, eager to speak more with the chromari. Others examined the translator technology, asking technical questions. The success was clear and undeniable. Jin-soo approached Min-ji as she stood quietly watching. You have achieved something remarkable. Not just a translator, a bridge between entirely different ways of experiencing reality. The chromari did most of the work, Min-ji said. They were patient with me. They taught me their language while learning ours. They never gave up hope that someone would eventually understand. But you were the one who first understood, the one who saw language in what others saw as noise. Jin-soo gestured to the busy chamber. This changes everything. We now realize there are likely other species we have encountered and dismissed as non-intelligent because we could not understand their communication. Species who think in ways we never considered. Your work has opened our eyes to our own limitations. Over the following weeks, the chromari were formally welcomed as full council members. Their provisional status was removed. They established an embassy and began participating in council decisions. More chromari arrived from their homeworld, eager to join galactic civilization now that communication was possible. But the impact went far beyond the chromari. Minji's work had revealed a gap in galactic understanding. The Council established a new department dedicated to visual communication research. They began searching records for other species previously encountered and dismissed. Within months, they had identified 17 other species who might communicate through sophisticated visual systems. Teams were sent to find these species. Many had gone into hiding after their failed first contacts, believing themselves alone. One by one, they were brought to the communication station. Minji and her growing team worked with each species, developing translators and welcoming them to the galactic community. Humans became known throughout the galaxy as the bridge speakers, the species who could see what others could not. The ones who had evolved for color vision so sophisticated that it opened doors no one else knew existed. Humanity's place in the galaxy shifted from being seen as average to being recognized as uniquely valuable. A year after the first demonstration, the original research team gathered in their old laboratory on Kelvar Station. They had returned to complete their initial project, which seemed almost trivial now compared to what had followed. Velcor activated their identification system. It combined infrared signatures for tracking, UV patterns for navigation, night vision markers for safety, and color codes for identification. 10,000 unique markers, each one distinct and recognizable. The project that had once seemed impossible was now complete. "We did it," Marin said. "All of us together. Because we learned to value each other's strengths instead of mocking each other's limitations," Thias added. She turned to Minji. "I am sorry for how I treated you when you first arrived. I thought my UV vision made me superior. I was foolish." "We were all foolish," Velcor rumbled. "I thought infrared vision was the pinnacle of evolution. I thought humans were handicapped by their narrow sensory range. But Minji showed us that depth matters more than breadth. Seeing 10 million colors in a narrow band is more useful than seeing a little bit of everything." Minji smiled. "Every species evolved for their environment. Your infrared vision is perfect for your world. Thias's UV vision is ideal for hers. Midarin's night vision serves her species well, and human color vision works for us. None is better. All are different. That is what makes the galaxy beautiful." She walked to the window and looked out at the stars. "My ancestors evolved in forests, learning to see subtle color differences to find food and read emotions. They never imagined that skill would one day let us hear an entire species that the galaxy had silenced. They just developed the tools they needed to survive, and gave their descendants the tools to help others survive," Jinsu said, entering the laboratory. The archivist had come to officially approve their completed project. "The Council has asked me to present you all with the Galactic Unity Medal. It is awarded to those who significantly advance interspecies cooperation and understanding." The archivist presented each team member with a crystalline medal that shimmered with all the colors of the spectrum. Velcor, for recognizing the value in different perspectives. Thias, for embracing change and new understanding. Mirarn, for supporting innovation and compassion. And Minji, for seeing what the galaxy could not see. For hearing voices we had silenced. For reminding us that every species has gifts we must learn to recognize. As they accepted their medals, a communication chimed through the laboratory. On the screen appeared sunrise over ocean, their colors bright with happiness. The translator converted their speech. "We wanted to thank you all again, especially Minji. You gave us voices. But more than that, you gave us proof that we are not alone, that someone in this vast universe can see us, truly see us." Minji felt tears on her cheeks. "You were never alone. We just needed to learn how to see you. Thank you for being patient with us, for waiting until someone finally understood." The Chromari's colors shifted to a pattern Minji now recognized as a smile. "And thank you for being the species who could see 10 million colors. That gift was exactly what the universe needed, what we needed. Sometimes the things others call limitations are actually the greatest gifts. You taught us that." After the communication ended, the team stood together in comfortable silence. They had started as strangers, some dismissive of others, some insecure about their own abilities. They had ended as friends who understood that diversity in perception meant diversity in possibility. Minji looked at her medal, watching how it caught and reflected light in millions of colors, each color distinct, each one beautiful. each one necessary to create the full spectrum, just like the species of the galaxy. They had mocked humans for not seeing infrared. They had pitied humans for their narrow visible spectrum. They had thought human vision was primitive and limited, until they learned that humans could see 10 million colors, until they learned that sometimes seeing everything meant missing the important details, until they learned that the human eye, evolved in Earth's ancient forests, was exactly what the galaxy needed to finally see all its children. And now, the galaxy would never be the same.